What's good, peoples and folks? It's your boy Goliath. Already know what time of the day it is. We are at our Master the Craft episode 3. Let me make sure my microphone is facing the right way. Notepad. Alright, there we go. Alright, so Master the Craft episode 3, we are going to kind of go still into some beat creation, just kind of give you an idea of what that kind of looks like. Again, this is not the end all say all. We are just trying to give you as much information if you're just starting out. As we get further in our episodes, we'll get a little bit deeper in for those of you who have already been doing this for a while. So if you are someone who has had experience in making beats, stick with us. You are bound to learn something. These first episodes, though, they may not be for you. You may already know the information. Feel free to chime in on the chat. We'd love to hear from you. We are multi-streaming upon to YouTube, Facebook, as well as Twitch. So go ahead and feel free to join us on any of those. If you could start following the TikTok, that way we can go ahead and start going live there as well. I am everywhere at Goliath MTBK. That's M as in Mike, T as in Tom, B as in boy, K as in kite, on all social media. All right, let's get started today. So let me go ahead and get us on over to our DAW of choice for today. I'm actually going to use Pro Tools since we used Logic last time. For those of you who are watching or do watch it at a later time, watching the replay, feel free to drop the DAW that you use or that you are most familiar with. And if, I get enough of one answer, I'll probably go over that as well. So, all right, where are we at here? All right, so here's our Pro Tools session. We're actually going to just start a new one. So, unlike, give me 1 second, that's supposed to be off. All right. Go ahead and make sure you turn your focus on, while you're doing stuff. All right, so here we are in Pro Tools. Unlike Logic, Pro Tools does not have a lot of sounds on its own. It does give you a couple different ones. They're not that great. That's why most people like to produce somewhere else and bring it into Pro Tools at a later date. But I like to use Machine, so that's kind of what we're also going to go over today is the Machine software along with Pro Tools and how that makes it a great atmosphere for you to produce in. This is my preferred area to produce. So let me just start a new track and we'll go from there. So it's got two different things here, sketch and session. We're not going to worry too much about sketch. Sketch is more like a pattern arranger, so you can do ideas quickly, but you kind of do that in Machine as well. So anyways, let's just start in the new session. So as with anything, I will tell you file management is always great. You need to make sure you know what you are saving and where you're saving it to. So let's just name this MTC1 local storage. All right. So a couple different options here that you want to take a look at. If you want to change these, that's great. The higher you go, the harder it is going to be on your computer and the bigger the file size. So you definitely want to keep that in mind as you're making these settings changes. So anyways, the first one is file type. Do we want it to be WAV or AIFF? There's very few times that you want to go to AIFF, but it is there as an option. And when you need to go there, they will let you know. But most of the time, I just keep mine on broadcast WAV. No problem. Sample rate 44.1, 48, 88.2, 96, 176.4, and 192. So the sample rate is basically one of the first quality settings for the audio that's coming in. Obviously, higher the sample, better sounding quality, more options there. I usually keep it at 48 or 44.1, depending on what I'm doing. But if you want to try some of these other ones and you want to go for a pristine sound, this is what they normally would use if we were in a big studio with multi-million-dollar gear and we want to capture all the clarity we can. We'd go as high as up to 192 kilohertz. I don't know too many engineers that go past 96 personally. It is a preference, so definitely think about what you want to do or try out different settings. Remember, as you're increasing these settings, you're increasing file size, you're increasing strain on your computer. So if you don't have a strong computer, keeping it at 44.1, 48, you're still good. For the most part, 44.1, 16-bit, I mean, it's gotten better over the years, right? But realistically, if you're going down to an MP3 at any point, that's going to be a good quality for you anyways. All right, so we'll keep it 44.1 for today. 16-bit, 24-bit, 32-bit float. So 16-bit, I would never suggest doing it at 16-bit. 24-bit is good. That's where I'd probably keep it at for the most part. 32-bit is great if you end up having clipping. You really don't have clipping because it's a floating endpoint. So that's about as deep as I'm going to go into that. There is some theory behind it, and we can get a lot deeper if you wanted to. At a later date, I'm sure I will go over bit depth and all this stuff in very fine detail. For beginners, though, you really just want to keep it 44.1. 16-bit's okay for beginner. 24-bit is what I use. So there we go. I have it prompt me for a location, so it's going to ask me where it wants to save. That's what I do every single time. So let's go ahead and create. All right, so let's just go out of here. I'm just going to go into here, create a new folder called MTC. All right, again, I'm working on a Mac. Windows users, yours may look a bit different, but just remember where you're putting it at. So right now I'm currently in my production drive, which I call GMTBK. I am in my production folder. I have a couple different things that I'm doing, so that's why I've got it all laid out the way I do here. But I have it in my production folder, and now I'm going to put it into the Master to Craft folder, so anything I do in Master to Craft will be saved in the same place. I'm going to save this song because I did do some changes. And again, feel free to ask any questions in the chat if you feel like asking questions. If you don't, that's fine too. All right, so here we have a Pro Tools session blank. And as you can see, there are no tracks, there are nothing recorded, and we need to create some tracks. So the first thing I always tell you to create is a master track. It's called a master fader in Pro Tools, so that's what I would create. Since we're doing production, I'm going to create, okay, so there's two ways to do this. You could do instrument track. Most people do this. I'm a little old school and stuck in my way, so I do aux tracks. But you could do an instrument track and you wouldn't have to do the next step that we're about to do. So go to aux track and then create a MIDI track as well. So those are the three tracks I usually create when I'm producing. Starting from scratch, we have nothing. Now we've got these three auxes. If you created an instrument track, and let me go ahead and just do that now so I can show you the difference. Go ahead and pick up an instrument. Ooh, no, that was wrong. See? Pressing buttons too fast. Instrument track, there we go. Create. Alright, so first one's on a master fader, right? Then you have our aux and our MIDI track, which is what I prefer to use. And then we have our instrument track here. So again, as I said, Pro Tools does not come with its own plugins for music creation. You have to purchase them third party. I use the Machine. There's a lot of different vendors out there that create instruments for Pro Tools and other DAWs. But I like the Machine, so that's who I use, along with the all the native instruments sounds that you can get. So let me go ahead and pull that up. That's going to be an instrument, not sound field. So Machine 2. All right, so here is our lovely Machine software. And so this is what I use to get all my sounds. As you can see right now, I'm in my producer's kits, which have drums. I've got all my 808s and everything separated. But then I have a library over here full of instruments because I have their full package. And so if I need a piano or anything like that, I can grab it from here. Now, with the aux MIDI setup, like I said, there's one extra step that you have to think about, and that's making sure that the MIDI is routed to the actual machine. So in the bottom on the output, if you don't know Pro Tools, so you've got your inserts, which is plugins for like EQ, dynamic, instruments, dynamic processing, reverbs, delays, stuff like that. It's all in here under the inserts. The sends are like auxes on a actual analog board. So where do I want to send something to? That's the way I always think about it, and it's got a whole bunch of different things here. If you have outboard gear, you would pick the output that it's connected to. If you have processors like reverbs and stuff on an aux channel, then we'll get more into that in the mixing side, but this is where you would do that routing. Okay, then after that, below that, after our inserts, after our sends, we have the input output area. So input is the top, output is the bottom. So what is coming into the channel, what is leaving the channel? That's the way I look at it. And where is it going? So output is where is it going, where is it coming from, input. All right, so with the input output of the MIDI channel, I want to go ahead and make sure it says all. And make sure I'm checking the comments so I don't miss a comment. How about that? All right. And then on the output, I want it to go to aux1, individual targets, machine, and channel 1. We'll get further into channels. I'll probably do a help video about MIDI, and we'll put the link at the bottom to go deeper into that. But again, I'm just trying to give you the basics for you to understand how to get sound out of each of these DAWs and what that looks like. All right. So we have routed the MIDI channel to the machine. We have set the machine in an aux track, and now we should be able to control it. But if you click and push on the keys, we will see that we have no sound. So even when I'm touching, nothing's going on. What's wrong? Well, you have to record enable. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then in here in the option settings on Pro Tools, you will have to go to MIDI through. All right, so I can actually see that this is working because this light is flashing. But again, we have no sound because we have no sound loaded. In the machine, it's real simple. You find the sound you want, you click on it, it gets loaded, and you're ready to go. So let's just get a piano going. We'll go with the grand piano. And we'll grab this Alicia Keys in it, which is initialized. I just clicked on it, give it a second to load. And now we got sound. So and there you go. That's how you get sound out of a machine in Pro Tools using the aux MIDI way. Now, if you're wanting to be faster, now, there's a reason I do it this way. So I can control all my instruments. If I decide to open up other instrument tracks, I can control them all from one MIDI channel and not have to worry about looking for it. Now, there is another way. So we did that. You saw that work. You see when I arm and disarm, it's going to arm and disarm there, okay? The faster way, and the way most people use it now, I don't know why I don't do this. Like I said, I'm old school. That's the way I just showed you is the way I learned originally. And for some reason, I just like doing it that way. Call me weird. YouTube keeps dropping out. If you are getting errors, again, I am streaming on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you're having errors on one of the platforms, feel free to join on the other platform. Again, I am Goliath MTBK on all platforms, so I would appreciate the follow. All right, so we said faster way. Here it is. Already, if I just load a sound in this, we've got it going. Literally just got to load the plugin on here and go. Boom, 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 boom. Piano keys, goodness. Couldn't see right now, guys. I do apologize. So there you go. That's how quick and easy it is. You load the plugin, press ARM, and you're ready to go. Again, I don't know why I prefer this method, but I do. So we're going to stick with that method because that's the way I prefer it. Each engineer their own. This is one of those things that I want to tell you. Again, like I said at the beginning of this, I am not the end-all say-all to making music. This is my process. If you enjoy my process, that's great. If it helps you get started and you learn a different process, I'm more for it. So this is just what I choose to do and how I choose to get sound and stuff like that. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this back up. All right, so there's a couple things I wanted to touch upon that we didn't touch upon last course was basically going over the things that I think you need to know if you're going to be a producer. If you're going to make beats, this is the absolute minimum that you need to know, okay? I think you should know how to play an instrument, whether it be drums, it be piano, guitar. I would say a melodic instrument if you want to be a great producer. But I know a bunch of drummers that are really great producers, and they use samples and stuff like that. Sampling, we'll get into, but when we get there, being a drummer kind of makes you chop it up differently and makes you think about it differently because you're more into the rhythms than you are necessarily the melody involved. I think you should understand melody, understand keys, at least at a minimum, music theory and understanding your major keys versus minor keys, and what they look like either on a piano, guitar, or wherever you decide to learn. Even if you decide to learn on a piece of paper and a staff, okay? You should understand your major keys, minor keys. Those are very important to making music. Time signature, very important. I think you should understand what 4/4 is and not just play everything in 4/4, but understanding what you're playing and what 3/4, 6/8. Those are your most common time signatures when you're talking about popular music, hip hop, talking about rock, and a lot of different other things like that. There are different time signatures. I don't want you to get afraid of those. We did touch on that in the last course, where we talked about what the first number is versus the second number. So just keep in mind that you should understand all that. Understanding what BPM is, the speed of a song, is definitely important. So those are all different things. And then each DAW is going to be different. Last week we were in Logic. This week we're in Pro Tools. So this week our transport, again, it all looks kind of the same and similar. It may act differently, but for the most part, our transport is right here. And if you're in the edit window, it'll be up here at the top. So if I want to record, I could press the record button and press play, and it's recording right now. I can see the little pink line going through, and it's telling me that it's recording. I'm not playing nothing, but it is recording. All right, we'll go ahead and get rid of that. Now, I don't record MIDI on my MIDI channels. I record everything in the machine, which we're going to get into in a little bit, but I wanted to talk about this transport and understanding what it does. So you got your stop, your play functions. You've got several different play functions here. So if you right click or double two-finger click on a trackpad, you'll see that you've got half speed, prime for playback, loop, and dynamic transport. So you can click the loop off. Dynamic transport is a little bit, we'll get more in depth when I do my Pro Tools masterclass on it. But prime for playback, not really needed. Half speed, if you want to see what it sounds like half speed, that's great. There are ways around all this, but I usually just keep it on loop and we're good to go. So you got the same thing over here with the record button, normal, loop, destructive, quick punch. So loop, again, when I'm producing is 95% of the place where I'm going to stay, because I might loop up a section and keep producing over the top of that. And then if I'm even using Pro Tools in that sense, I'm usually just using Pro Tools as a start and stop for machine. We're going to get into the machine right now. So keep it on loop. There we go. You got to count off 2 bars. You don't necessarily need that. And then you got your meter and your tempo. So right now, let's go to 134. I'm thinking that's going to be good. Let's see. All right, wonderful. All right, so in Pro Tools, you do have the option to create your own click. And up here, if you go to track, down at the bottom, create click track. It'll actually create a click track for you and get you all set up. It's really easy to create one of these, though. You could create an aux track and just go into the plugin area. I I believe it's under instrument, and it's going to say click 2. And that's all it did, was create an aux track and make it a click 2. So now I've got a different click there. And then in machine, you have this little metronome button here, and that gives you the click there. So the one I use is the machines. I just want to make sure you knew how to get one from Pro Tools if you needed it. All right, there you go. So now we've got our little click going on here, and we are up into the machine software. 2 different ways to produce a machine. You can do patterns, or you can do song mode. So patterns is going to be where I'm at right now. And basically I can create different patterns right here. And each one of these can be a set of something. So let's just show you what that means. Keep it simple. We'll do a 1. I just had to get some ideas real quick. All right, here we go. So you can see I pressed, okay. This is the record button. If this is armed, that means anything I press is going to be recorded. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to let it go through one pattern, which is 8 bars. You can see my length is here. So we got it down to 6. Here we go. Pattern 2. I know what I'm playing. Alright, and we're actually going to move that up. What happened was I changed the sound we were playing, so this needs to move up. Alright, so if I'm in pattern 1, it's this original one. Choose a completely different pattern. And so you can build 8-part patterns, and then we can go in and readjust them as we see fit. So you can do that up to 16, I don't know, it's actually more than that. I think it's up to 32 times. 32 different patterns for a set of sounds. So not only can I keep it the piano sound, but then I can come in here and say, okay, you know what I want? I want to throw in a guitar piece. So let's get the guitar out. And Machine's got a whole bunch of different stuff here. So if I want something that sounds a little funky and I don't know how to play the guitar, guess what? I can actually grab this, open it up in Contact, and see how that goes with what we got. Oh, way too soft for this. This is gonna be way too much. Sped it up, didn't it? So let's add a bass to it. So again, the pattern doesn't have to just be one thing. Again, we can come there and then have this one without the guitar, and add a, I mean, it really is up to your imagination at this point. You could pick, go through sounds, and this is really the same thing we ran into when we're doing it in Logic. So what you choose to do doesn't really matter. It is completely up to you when you're making the beats for what you're making it for. I don't think that you should try to shoot for somebody else's style or anything like that, because of the fact that your style should be unique to you. And that's why people will come to you to come get your sound. So we don't need to go too far into making the beat, but just showing you how to do some things. Now, we talked about time signature, and this is where it gets more important. So usually when you're talking about a 4/4 beat, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Means equal quarter notes all the way through, 4 of them in one measure. So as you can see here, the length I have is 8 measures. And if you watch this as it goes through, oh, it's actually on Pro Tools, so I need to pull that up here. So let me go ahead and pull up this. All right. So on Pro Tools, you'll see right here, this will count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this will go up another number. It'll go up for 8. It will go longer because Pro Tools is not looped. So let's just loop Pro Tools too. So we go through this twice, then we go to pattern 2, or pattern 1, 2, 3, and go. That's 1. So we can keep going back and forth, manually switching them. Or we can start setting up our scenes. So scene 1 is going to be this. Scene 2, we're going to go ahead and go to pattern 2. And then we can click on this song mode. And basically what song mode gives you is the ability to paste your patterns. If we insert scene 1 and we insert scene 2, take the loop off of Pro Tools. As you can see, it automatically switches. It will not loop back and forth because of the fact that it is not set up to do that. If I wanted it to loop, I'd loop it here in Pro Tools and then do that. But as long as I want the song to keep going, I can keep going back from 1 to 2. Now, the great thing about Machine is it gives you this several different times. So not only can I have a set of patterns here, I can actually order another group up. So now I'm in the yellow group. This is the orange group, yellow group. And now I can create whole new patterns here. The reason I think this is great is I can separate my drums from my melodic instruments. So you get your melodic instruments, your bass, your piano, guitar, whatever you decide to use, and you put it on the first one, and then the second one, that's where I go ahead and set up my drum set. So I'll come in here to my files and loading samples. If you use samples and loops and stuff like that, you can load them here too as well. I use these for my drum sounds, so come here and I just click on what I want, and we'll go through each of the sounds here and see what we find. Can never have enough drum sounds, guys. Alright, we're gonna go somewhere quick here. What we're gonna do is grab this one. Alright, wonderful. We'll grab a snare. Where are my snares? Oh my goodness. It's like sometimes I can't see, guys. So we're on the second one here. Yeah. Let's go. Alright, let's not be picky. I'm always picky, guys, just so you know. And all I'm using to trigger that right now is the actual machine hardware, the micro, or I can use my keyboard at the same time. So whatever's connected to this will actually work. And then we can just go in here and create the new pattern. So this is pattern 1. We'll go pattern 2, pattern 3, pattern 4. Just give us some blank ones. We're on pattern 1, so let's just go ahead and get in here. I think I'm gonna start with the snare because I'll loop it up. Alright, so in 4/4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 95% of the time, the snare is actually on the 2 and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm gonna show you what that looks like. We're just gonna mute our melodic instruments. So you hear the accent every single one, right? That's 1. And so, like I said, on the second dot and the 4th dot, we're gonna put a snare. We're not recording. Gotta be recording, guys. Alright, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so simple 2 and 4 pattern there. Kick, that's going to be a little bit different, right? So for the simple ones, solidify the 1, right? But you can add and all this is separations of notes. So understanding, again, where I talked about knowing theory, it's good to know some kind of instrument because you're going to learn that music theory and that timing. So basically a measure is split up into beats, usually quarter notes, which can be separated out into whole notes which is an actual 4-beat note, stays for 4 notes. Half notes, which is two beats, so 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's half notes. And then quarter notes, which is each individual 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. Half notes would be something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Whole notes would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Then you have eighth notes, which are half of quarter notes. Quarter notes are 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then you have triplets. We're not going to get into those. You got 16th notes, which is going to be 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. So 4 notes per beat. Very difficult to start understanding and getting, but try to grasp the fact that pretty much each section goes down a half until we start talking about triplets and sextuplets, but we're not going to get into that tonight or today. That'd just be probably blow your mind too much and break it, and I don't want to do that. So we have whole notes, half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes. Look up those terms. They're on the internet. There's tons of lessons about them. But those are something you should look into if you're getting into hip-hop music, pop music, anything like that. Any music, really, to be honest with you. You're going to take it a little bit further when you get into jazz, probably faster notes than that, 32nd notes, 64th notes, and so on. And then we'll get into triplets a little bit later. But anyways, said all that to say that do what feels good, but understanding what feels good will help you get that far along without having to come up with different ideas or just kind of playing around till you fall into something. When I produce music, I usually know where the kick is going to go based off the melody rhymes or the melody scheme. If someone sends me a song, I can get to the tempo and all that stuff. So it's only because I understand the timing of different notes within a measure. Okay. Big soapbox. Didn't mean to jump into that so much. All right, so we're just going to put the kick in. And so it's very simple. I'm going to just throw some eighth note hi-hats in there. Yeah, eighth note hi-hats. Simple eighth notes. Again, the snare is really doing a quarter or half note pattern where it's hitting on the 2 and the 4, and the kick is doing a mixture of some notes right now. All right, so that's pattern 1. The other times in the 2/4, sometimes your snare is hitting on the 3. Kind of gives it more of a halftime feel. So that's what we're going to do for the second one. And you'll see what happens when we do the pattern switch. So instead of the 2 and 4, now we only did it on the third click. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're again gonna do a little kick pattern. It's gonna be a little different. I don't really know what yet. And we'll do something tricky here on the hi-hat this time. Alright, so now in scene 1 we have pattern 1 and pattern 1 on the drums. Scene 2 we're going to have pattern 1 and pattern 2 on the drums, or pattern 2, and then we can go through and see what that So just showing you how the patterns can be used. You can make any sorts of patterns as you go through. If you want to separate all the different, like say you have samples now and you want to throw some samples in there, you can go ahead and create a whole nother group for that and go ahead and start sampling, again giving yourself another 16 sounds banks to play with. At this point I think you'd be overproducing, but that's just me. Again, all up to you on how you decide to do things. So just a little overview on what we kind of talked about today. We kind of went over Pro Tools and how to get different sounds in Pro Tools using the machine software. I did show you how to control the machine software, other instruments that you have by using a MIDI track or just setting up an instrument track in Pro Tools. Always a good thing to use. The next part about that, we talked about the key things that you need as a musician or as a producer, what you think you should be doing, or what you should know at the minimum, right? We talked a little bit about time signature, talked a little bit about patterns and song mode inside of the machine software, and we did a little bit of theory. Now, with the major and minor scales, I want you to learn that as well. So not only on top of the note values that we talked about, the whole note, the half note, the quarter note, the eighth note, the 16th note, I also want you to think about major keys and minor keys, okay? Go ahead and do some research. Come back to these videos. Go ahead and comment. Let me know what you learned while you were out there. It's very important to understand that, because when we get into playing songs, let me just give me a sound here. Understanding why this is a major key and why that's a minor key is very important to you producing music. So again, if somebody wants a sad feel, they may just want something in a minor key. Now, it doesn't mean that all the notes that all the chords I'm playing are minor. It just means that I've put the chord pattern around a minor chord. So there's a lot of things. So we'll probably talk about chords and chord structure next. I think that's the next episode. We'll talk about that. We'll go over exactly what a chord is and how to build a chord and what they look like. And why this sounds happy, and while this sounds eerie. But they are really kind of the same chord structure. We're still going down from the 1 to the, and we're not going to get into that yet. So it is just a walk down. There's so much to learn, guys, and so much that is in the music theory world. I'm not trying to be Berkeley School of Music or whatever. I'm just trying to give you some points and things to think about as you're beginning. And like I said, as we get deeper into these courses, I'll be able to refer back to these courses and dive deeper into the theory itself. But understanding theory as a producer is going to be huge. I think understanding it all. So don't just think that you have to learn how to make beats, but the next part of that is going to be how to mix beats. In today's day and age, you got to know how to mix your stuff and make it sound good so that when people go look for it, they want to hear more of what you got. If you just put out stuff that sounds like garbage, although maybe musically genius, if it sounds like garbage, no one's going to pick it up. And if that's the reason you're doing music, then obviously that's what you want to happen. If you're just doing music for you, then go at it, have fun, do whatever makes you happy at the end of the day. If you're not having fun making music, you're doing it wrong. You should know that. Definitely something you don't want to do bored, okay? Next week, I definitely am going to go a little bit further into what it looks like when you produce a whole track. I might actually come with something pre-produced so we can go a little bit deeper into what I did in each of the pieces. Or, if you want, comment the name of a song that you like, and we'll break it down. We'll go ahead and break down the beat. We'll break down exactly what they did, what each piece is doing, and so we can kind of understand what it takes to make those kind of beats. As always, don't forget to like, share, follow, make comments, and go ahead and let other people that are trying to get into music, go ahead and show them this or send them this so that they can partake and learn too. All right, it's been a pleasure. As always, definitely enjoy the time with you guys, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.